When dealing with electrical installations, specifically outdoor panels serving as disconnects for condenser units, the question of whether a ground conductor is required often arises. According to one perspective, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, mandates ground conductors for outdoor panels that house circuit breakers or fusible switches intended for single-phase services. However, in the scenario where the panel exclusively functions as disconnects for condenser units and does not incorporate any circuit breakers or fusible switches associated with single-phase circuits, the NEC might not explicitly necessitate a ground conductor. Another viewpoint suggests that even though the NEC might not have an explicit requirement for a ground conductor in this particular situation, it is a sound practice to include one for safety reasons. A ground conductor serves as a pathway for fault currents to safely dissipate to the earth, which consequently lowers the potential for electrical shock hazards. Furthermore, if there are any plans to introduce single-phase circuits to the panel in the future, having a pre-existing ground conductor simplifies compliance and eliminates the need for later retrofitting. Based on these considerations, the technical standpoint is that installing a ground conductor for the panel isn't strictly mandatory in this case. Nevertheless, it is a prudent decision to incorporate a ground conductor as it enhances safety and accommodates future expansion plans. It is strongly recommended that the electrical contractor consult with the local electrical inspector or the authority having jurisdiction to ascertain any specific requirements or interpretations that apply to the installation in question. In summary, the NEC guidelines on grounding can sometimes be open to interpretation depending on the specific application. While a strict reading of the code might suggest that a ground conductor is not required when the panel only serves as a disconnect for equipment like condenser units, factors like safety and potential future modifications to the electrical system should be taken into account. The purpose of a grounding system is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This allows overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, to quickly trip and clear the fault, minimizing the risk of electrical shock or fire. A properly installed grounding system also helps to stabilize voltage during normal operation and reduce electrical noise. Firstly, let's consider the NEC definition of a separately derived system. This term applies when a new source of power is created, such as through a transformer or generator. In such cases, the NEC typically requires a grounding electrode system to be established at the new power source. However, a panel serving only as a disconnect for condenser units does not create a separately derived system, so this requirement does not apply. Secondly, the NEC addresses the grounding of electrical equipment in Article 250. Specifically, Section 250.32 outlines requirements for grounding separately derived alternating current systems. While this section does not directly apply to the described scenario, it provides valuable context for understanding the intent of the code. Thirdly, the decision to install a ground conductor should also take into account the specific characteristics of the equipment being served. Condenser units often contain sensitive electronic components that can be susceptible to damage from voltage surges or electrical noise. A properly installed grounding system can help to mitigate these risks and improve the reliability of the equipment. Fourthly, consider the possibility of future changes to the electrical system. Even if there are no immediate plans to add single-phase circuits to the panel, it is possible that such changes may be needed in the future. Installing a ground conductor now will make it easier to accommodate these changes without having to undertake a major rework of the grounding system. Fifthly, it is important to consider the potential liability associated with electrical installations. If an accident occurs as a result of an improperly grounded system, the electrical contractor could be held liable for damages. Installing a ground conductor, even if not strictly required by the NEC, can help to demonstrate a commitment to safety and reduce the risk of liability. Sixthly, the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction plays a crucial role in interpreting and enforcing the NEC. The inspector may have specific requirements or interpretations that differ from the general guidelines in the code. It is always best to consult with the local inspector to ensure that the installation meets all applicable requirements. Seventhly, it is important to distinguish between equipment grounding and system grounding. Equipment grounding refers to the connection of non-current carrying metal parts of electrical equipment to ground. This is intended to provide a low impedance path for fault current and protect against electrical shock. System grounding, on the other hand, refers to the intentional connection of one of the current-carrying conductors of an electrical system to ground. This is typically done to stabilize voltage and provide a reference point for overcurrent protection. Eighthly, when installing a ground conductor, it is important to ensure that it is properly sized and connected. The size of the ground conductor is typically determined by the size of the circuit conductors, as specified in the NEC Table 250.122. The ground conductor should be connected to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or a metal water pipe. Ninthly, it is also important to consider the potential for corrosion of grounding conductors and connections. Grounding conductors that are exposed to moisture or chemicals can corrode over time, which can reduce their effectiveness. To prevent corrosion, it is recommended to use corrosion-resistant materials and to protect grounding connections from the elements. Tenthly, regular inspection and testing of grounding systems is essential to ensure their continued effectiveness. Grounding connections should be checked for tightness and corrosion, and the resistance of the grounding system should be measured to verify that it is within acceptable limits. 11thly, it's important to remember that the NEC is a minimum standard. In some cases, it may be prudent to exceed the requirements of the NEC in order to provide a higher level of safety or reliability. For example, installing a larger ground conductor than required by the NEC can help to reduce voltage drop and improve the performance of the grounding system. 12thly, consider the type of electrical service feeding the panel. If the service is derived from a utility transformer, the grounding requirements may be different than if the service is derived from a generator or other source. Consult the NEC and local codes to determine the appropriate grounding requirements for the specific type of service. 13thly, take into account the environment in which the panel is installed. If the panel is located in a damp or corrosive environment, it may be necessary to take additional precautions to protect the grounding system from corrosion. This may include using corrosion-resistant materials and applying a protective coating to the grounding conductors and connections. 14thly, it is also important to consider the potential for lightning strikes. If the panel is located in an area that is prone to lightning strikes, it may be necessary to install a lightning protection system to protect the electrical equipment in the building. A lightning protection system typically includes lightning rods, grounding conductors, and surge protective devices. 15thly, when working with electrical systems, it is always important to follow safe work practices. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses, and using insulated tools. It is also important to de-energize the electrical system before working on it and to verify that it is energized using a voltage tester. 16thly, remember that electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving. It is important to stay up to date on the latest changes and to consult with qualified professionals when necessary. This will help to ensure that electrical installations are safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable requirements. 17thly, the presence of other metallic structures near the panel can also influence the need for grounding. If there are nearby metallic fences, pipes, or other structures that could become energized in the event of a fault, bonding them to the grounding system can help to minimize the risk of electrical shock. 18thly, the specific type of overcurrent protection used in the panel can also affect the grounding requirements. For example, if the panel uses ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, the grounding requirements may be different than if it uses standard circuit breakers. Consult the NEC and the manufacturer's instructions to determine the appropriate grounding requirements for the type of overcurrent protection used. 19thly, the presence of sensitive electronic equipment connected to the condenser units can also necessitate a robust grounding system. Sensitive electronic equipment is more susceptible to damage from voltage surges and electrical noise. A properly installed grounding system can help to mitigate these risks and improve the reliability of the equipment. 20thly, the size and complexity of the electrical system can also influence the grounding requirements. Larger and more complex electrical systems typically require more extensive grounding systems to ensure safety and reliability. Consult with a qualified electrical engineer to determine the appropriate grounding requirements for the specific electrical system. 21st, the age of the electrical system can also be a factor in determining the grounding requirements. Older electrical systems may not have been designed to meet current grounding standards. Upgrading the grounding system may be necessary to ensure safety and compliance with current codes. 22nd, the type of soil in the area can also affect the effectiveness of the grounding system. Soil with high moisture content and high mineral content is typically more conductive and provides better grounding than dry, sandy soil. It may be necessary to use multiple ground rods or other grounding electrodes to achieve adequate grounding in areas with poor soil conditions. 23rd, the depth at which the ground rods are installed can also affect the effectiveness of the grounding system. Ground rods should be installed deep enough to reach permanent moisture. This will help to ensure that the grounding system remains effective even during dry periods. 24th, the distance between ground rods can also affect the effectiveness of the grounding system. Ground rods should be spaced at least twice their length apart. This will help to prevent them from interfering with each other and reduce the overall resistance of the grounding system. 25th, the type of clamps used to connect the grounding conductors to the ground rods can also affect the effectiveness of the grounding system. The clamps should be made of a corrosion-resistant material and should be properly tightened to ensure a good electrical connection. 26th, the use of exothermic welding to connect the grounding conductors to the ground rods can provide a more reliable and corrosion-resistant connection than mechanical clamps. Exothermic welding involves using a chemical reaction to create a permanent bond between the conductors and the ground rods. 27th, the installation of a ground ring around the perimeter of the building can provide a more comprehensive grounding system. A ground ring consists of a bare copper conductor buried in the earth around the building. The ground ring is connected to the ground rods and other grounding electrodes to create a low impedance ground path. 28th, the use of surge protective devices, or SPDs, can help to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning or other events. SPD should be installed at the service entrance and at other critical locations throughout the electrical system. 29th, the regular testing of the grounding system is essential to ensure that it is functioning properly. The grounding system should be tested at least annually by a qualified electrician. The test should include a visual inspection of the grounding conductors and connections, as well as a measurement of the ground resistance. 30th, proper documentation of the grounding system is important for future maintenance and troubleshooting. The documentation should include a diagram of the grounding system, as well as records of all inspections and tests. Considering all these factors and consulting with qualified professionals will help to ensure that the electrical installation is safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable codes and standards.